All right, guys, who's got some wins for the week?
I'll start off. I actually made progress with my deck. It's going in about 3 weeks. I'm getting excited.
Nice. So, who else has got it?
I got my closet cleaned up. Got my closet cleaned out this weekend.
Nice. I'm sure Kathy's happy with that.
Goodwill will be happy with it.
Who else?
Yeah,
I got a couple. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Tom really helped me out this past week with some documentation that assisted me in my training program. So thank you, Tom.
Nice. Helping each other out. Love it. What you got, Connor?
Starting to feel like I'm making some progress on some of the training and outsourcing of my role. So feeling pretty good about that. Actually had an account closed last week that I didn't have any hand in.
Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, what you got?
Yeah, so a couple of the water management programs that we're putting together, we're starting to get really into them on the development side and seeing a lot of good things come out of it. Some good team engagement.
Nice. Well, as you guys know, AWT's coming up, so they've done some changes this year. We're actually going to have a member of the board join our mastermind so we can ask questions to figure out how we can maximize exactly what we need to do to get the most out of this year's convention. And so more to come on when we get that scheduled. And then, as you know, we've got the live event coming up. All you guys have to do is get here, and then we will take care of everything for you. So Lauren is going to send you out a preference sheet. So if you guys can go ahead and fill out the preference sheet, we'll make sure that everything you want is just the way you like it when you get here to Atlanta. Last thing is the book we're reading. Hope you guys are enjoying it. 12-week year. So next week, we're going to have a special call just where we're discussing the book. And in the meantime, continue reading. I believe we're reading up to chapter 20. So bring your questions, bring your advice, and we will go ahead and have that call next week. So, Chris, I think you are the accountability admin this week. So who do we need to hear from?
Okay, Mark, you were to plan a date night with Kathy over last weekend.
We did. We actually we were taking time in the evening to go out and just for drinks and things. With her working from home every night, or every day, it's kind of tough for her to get out and relax. And so my wife is really enjoying going out, just her and I, and just catching up with adult time away from her office room.
Awesome.
Good. So you're out of the doghouse. I was working on a training video that was supposed to meet with Connor to help get this out. So did talk to Tom, and with that conversation, switched over to Connor, who helped me out. So I do appreciate that. Connor, you were working on a new product line and needed to meet with some suppliers to make sure that you could source some material.
Yep, so far so good on that. I've met with 2 of the 3 suppliers there, and I've got a meeting scheduled with the last one for later this week. So for next week's call, I should have that wrapped up.
Cool. That's ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian, the presentation on the Legionella plan, you're going to meet with Mark to do a dry run and before you delivered it. How'd that go?
Yeah, Mark and I completed that last Friday.
Good.
Let me ask, Brian, anything you learned from you and Mark doing the dry run? Anything you added or took out of your presentation?
Yeah, it was good. So because Mark has so much experience over on the utility side, and this is primarily working on the domestic side. So it was good to see his kind of perspective, having some knowledge of it, but looking at it from a different side. So
cool.
Tom, you had a misunderstanding with an employee. You're going to have a meeting to make sure you guys figured out each other's view and next steps.
Yeah, we sat down last Thursday and kind of realized that we weren't asking the questions to make sure that we understood each other. So we resolved that and made sure moving forward that we make sure we both feel comfortable enough to ask the questions if it doesn't seem clear to either one of us.
Tom, let me ask, if we didn't bring that up in the group, do you think that misunderstanding would have gone on?
It might have or might not have, but I think that helped me get to a resolve a little quicker than I needed to.
Cool. Well, thanks, Chris. I think that's everything we've got on that. So with the assessment tool, went through. Connor, you're asking for some additional help with the product line. I know you're ahead of schedule. Do you still need some help with that?
The main thing I'm working on now is really a better way to, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit in the past, but still trying to finalize getting a good way to label the tank. So if anyone has any ideas in terms of like a heat wrap or something like that, open to any suggestions.
All right. Who can help Connor out with that?
I can reach out to him and may have some ideas.
Perfect. Chris, if you go ahead and capture that on our accountability tool. All right. And then, Brian, you're asking for some good books on sales. One of my favorites is the Challenger Sale. So you might try that. Another one that I like, of course, it's a business fable. You guys know I'm not a big fan of the business fable. Pat Lencioni wrote a book called Getting Naked. And yes, it is about sales. But he talks about a fictitious company where they are pretty much stripping down everything else except making sure they're fitting the customer's needs. So those are my two recommendations.
One thing, two books are not, I guess, explicitly sales books, but two books that I've kind of had luck with are The One Thing. I think it's by Gary Keller.
Yeah, Keller Williams.
Yep. And then Essentialism, and I'm going to forget who wrote that book, but both of those really just kind of help you drill down into what you want to be focused on. So if that thing is sales, it'll help you kind of build your weekly or daily schedule around that so you can have a higher level of focus.
All right. So let us know if those are what you were looking for.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. So Mark, you are in the middle. So before we get started, just to remind everybody, Mark's going to present his issue. And after he's presented his issue, we're going to go around and we're going to ask clarifying questions only. So it's very easy for us to make recommendations, but the more information that we can get, the better recommendations that we can get. And then also, hopefully, Mark's going to see his issue from a different point of view. So with that, Mark, take it away.
This week's issue I'm bringing to the table is one I've got a customer that I've had for about 5 years now. It's an industrial plant that was having some issues. I was brought in, working with the team. Slowly but surely we picked up. We corrected the issues, and now 5 years later they're going out for competitive bids and even bringing in the same company that was there before. And we've had some personnel changes, and this company just doesn't seem to value competent water treaters. They're looking for seems like they're always looking for just low price until there's a problem, and then they've got all kind of money to spend and fix it. And so what used to take a couple hours to go in and take care of, now it's a couple hours to take care of it. It's another hour or two while I'm in the plant dealing with these odd questions that come up, and then there's always a couple hours each month of and I'm gonna call it homework, stuff that they're just asking for and stuff they've been given before and such like that. And so how do you handle people like this? How do you you worked your tail off to fix issues, get them running like they should be running, and then as soon as a new person comes in, we got to shop everything. We got to basically replace our vendors. So,
all right, you guys have enough to work with that? All right, so who's going to start us off with some clarifying questions?
Yeah, so you said you had it for about 5 years now, but
right.
With all the changes and everything, how does this fit into, as your profile has grown, where your clients are? How does it fit into that mix? Is it something that makes sense for you to keep working with going forward, even when they are putting you out to bid like that?
It's a nice account. It's a nice dollar size account that everybody likes to have in their portfolio. And so it's one of those things that it fits well. It's kind of convenient with other accounts in the territory. So it's a nice piece of business. I don't want to give it away, but it is something that has become a lot of work.
Hey, Mark, quick question. Has there been any turnover on the account, or how frequent has it been?
I'll say it's a lot like a lot of accounts these days. Your maintenance team is pretty stable. The guys have been there. They'll bring in a new manager, and sometimes this particular manager kind of came out of nowhere, became a supervisor, and then was promoted up. And so it's so the guy who I report to has been in the position about 6 months, and sometimes he has time to see me, and sometimes he doesn't. It's odd. The maintenance technicians, the maintenance teams, really show that they appreciate what I do and how I work with them and how we go ahead and address things when I'm there. But it seems like that, and I'm going to call it mid-level management. This guy's over the boiler house. He just doesn't seem to appreciate what his vendors do for him.
All right. Any more questions?
Yeah. So, Mark, you mentioned that typically they're kind of a low price, I guess, company in terms of choosing their water treatment vendor. They go typically for low price. But how did you originally get the account? Was it because of issues that they had with the previous vendor, or what really got you in the door?
I was actually brought in as a referral from the maintenance contractor, the boiler maintenance company that was servicing the boiler. They saw the issues and they brought me in, and so with that, I had instant credibility, and because they had so many issues, I don't think price was a problem. And we're not the cheapest water treatment company in town. We'll never be. Some of that is, because of everything we do. We just don't come in and test the water. We're going to come in, we're going to test the water, we're going to evaluate the equipment, we're going to see how it's operating, we're going to record stack temperatures, compare them, check consumptions, not only just check residuals in the boiler, but then go back and look at your water consumption, how much water you've had, and then compare that to the treatment we use to kind of get a good gauge of we've been in control, this whole time. And so, and those are the things originally they liked. And their issues went away. And, but like I did say, 6 months ago, this new guy kind of worked his way in, and it wasn't a mechanic that worked their way up. They brought this guy in from outside and as a supervisor, and then the foreman of the shop left, and they just promoted it right on up. And now it's almost like he's there to make a name for himself. And one of the things he's going to do is I'm going to go in and cut prices and then show, wave the flag that I brought in my vendors and saved 25% on what we were doing before with the previous vendors because no one was minding the store. So that's kind of what it feels like from my side.
Does the customer remember, or any of them know about any of the issues that they used to have? How'd you fix them if they do?
The maintenance team does. And that's, when I talk, it's almost like talking to two groups of people. When I talk to the maintenance team, Ray say that I told him that we had those problems before, and Mark's the ones that fixed them, and we don't need to have those problems again. But they're still, they brought two companies in already for bids. And so it's just a lot of work because of all the hoops that I'm having to jump through to respond to this or that when, I feel like I've already proven myself to this company.
You mentioned that you weren't brought in based on pricing, but more to resolve a lot of issues and referrals. Would you say at this time that you're competitive as far as who they're bringing in? Have you increased your pricing over time?
I'm kind of lucky. We see price increases of, maybe 2 or 3% every year and a half to 2 years, and we don't have a set price increase every year. And so some of that's nice as long as it's priced properly. The account pays for itself, and I'm able to even, roll over existing prices. But as a general rule, there are 3 or 4 companies out there that's going to be 25 to 30% cheaper than we are, just because I don't think they have the experience. I don't think they have they don't dedicate the time. It's more of a route. We're going to run around. We're going to test these 6 systems today or these 6 buildings today. And it's all about, I need to run these 14 testing and go somewhere. Where, when we come in, we're evaluating the program. We're evaluating their equipment. We're able to catch things before they become problems. And that's how we're able to resolve some of their other issues is some things were not so apparent, but when you got in and studied the account and when you got in and studied the systems, we were able to see what was causing their issues. And by resolving those, their issues went away. I mean, the scaling in the boiler is reduced over the last 5 years. The stack temperature is down about 10 degrees. Their water consumption is down. We found a few leaks in their condensate systems. It's just a multitude of things of saying, okay, what's the next right thing we need to do here? And so by doing those things, we do more than just the water treatment chemical side of things. We're looking at the whole plant. And so that's the hard part, is it takes a lot of work to make these systems run efficiently. And then somebody goes back and just looks at the chemical cost.
So, Mark, you mentioned that the new contact has been there for 6 months, and maybe every other time you're able to actually talk to him. Do you have a relationship with maybe his boss, and is there stability there? And then lower down, it sounds like you have a pretty good relationship with kind of the people that are on the day-to-day of the system.
Yeah, I will say that the way they're structured, the maintenance team they're great guys. I mean, they've been there forever. The supervisor is one that he's there, and then he's not there. As far as to go much further up, it almost takes an act of Congress to go any further up. And so it's kind of hard to get to that next level, just because they do put so much faith in their manager there.
So, Mark, do you know why they're getting other bids?
I think it goes back to the new maintenance manager here wants to make a name for himself. No one else really knows what's going on, why he's doing it. And when I've asked him, I said, it seems like, you're in a process of reviewing what's going on. And he says, well, we got to do that just for a company policy. And
So
they never,
it sounds like you've had some customer reviews with them.
High level. We haven't really sat down and gone into discussing all the issues. We normally talk about our wish list and things that we want to do to continue to improve things.
So Mark, when you're talking about that wish list, is that something that he brings to you, or is that something that you bring to him?
It's something I've been bringing to him because there again, it hasn't been there very long. And I like to tell all my customers that, these are the things we have to do, and these are the things we'd like to do if we have time, if we have money. These things will pay for themselves, and we try to put dollar values to it. But he doesn't seem that interested in some of these wish list items.
You mentioned you're spending a lot of time on this account, more than you have ever in the past. Are you making this? Is this client still profitable at this point for you?
I probably can't truthfully answer that because I probably don't know. We for the most part, we look at our business on chemical sales and dollars, but I have not sat down and tracked my time associated with this account and then put a dollar value to that. So I don't know.
So guys, I want to make sure we have plenty of time for advice. So time for about 2 more questions.
Okay, I'm kind of chatty today. Mark, it sounds like you're underappreciated this account. Is that an understatement? Do you agree with that? Is that kind of what's going on?
To be honest, I really think that the maintenance manager doesn't know his plant like he should. And so I think there's a lot of people underappreciated. But yeah, I feel like that because we're doing the job we're doing, and it's not seen, then yes, we're underappreciated.
And you said it takes, used to take 2 hours, but it's like 6 hours to service the account, right?
Yeah, between the service, between the just going over the things, in the office and what's going on, waiting on, the manager to come back in, and then providing with data and such afterwards. Once everything else would normally be done, I still got work to do on this account, so that just stuff that they've asked for.
Trace, I know you said only 2 more questions, but I got one more. Is that all right?
Yeah, Chris asked 2. Why not?
So, Mark, I guess what I want to get across or ask is, if you didn't have this account, do you think you could service a more profitable account that might appreciate you more?
You give anybody another day, and they're going to find a way to be profitable. It's the hard part of open your hands to accept something new, but when you open your hands, you got to give something up. So you got to be willing to give up, and sometimes it's before you receive. And so it's nice to have it, but could I be more profitable somewhere else? Probably the answer is yes. I just don't have that something else yet.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to switch over to advice. So, Mark, just as a reminder, this is your opportunity to take some notes and just take it all in. We ask you not to speak during this portion. So, Chris, why don't we start off with you? What advice do you have for Mark?
Sure. You said it was an act of Congress to go anywhere with higher up potential contacts. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and petition your congressman and try to get an appointment, because that may unveil some findings there. But also try to get to that supervisor's why. I don't know. It sounds like you kind of use the words "I think" a little bit. I think this is the case, so I would challenge you to look a little further into that and see motivations on his part.
All right, thanks, Chris. Tom, how about you next?
I would sit down and actually run a cost analysis to say how much you're investing your time right now. So you said chemical, but figure out how much time you're investing now versus before this all started. And then you can actually feel comfortable going in there and expressing, hey, this is what it's costing me now. I can save you by anybody. Let's move in the right direction and let me stay here. So also, you really need to express, I kind of back up what Chris said, is really express the value you brought to this thing. You mentioned that they were looking to bring in possibly the old company to bid on it. There's a reason why they're not there anymore and why you are there. So they need to know that. It sounds like a lot of people there do. So this person. So
Connor, how about you next?
I kind of echo what Tom said in terms of the really understanding what your costs are and asking yourself, is there a better use of your time? If you were spending it elsewhere, could you be doing better for your territory? But the other thing that might be kind of interesting to look at would be seeing if you could put some kind of ballpark numbers or at least rates to some of the savings that you've given them. So, hey, we dropped your stack temperature 10 degrees. Here's how you might be able to think in terms of what that is actually saving the business, or your chiller efficiency went up, and kind of just seeing if you could at least get some sort of rough numbers or percentages in their head so they realize the value that you're bringing.
Brian?
Okay.
Yeah, and I think building on what Connor just shared, it sounds a lot like you might have similar to what we were talking about last week with Legionella, Mark. You might have a little bit of an education gap between you are and what you're able to find and what the client understands and sees as value. So something that might be good is to sit down with them and really have a discussion of what's going to be important to them, and then also kind of bringing to the table some of the things that you're able to do for them as a vendor to help protect them.
All right, Mark. Well, as always, we're gonna ask you if this was helpful, and what are you going to do? When is it going to be done by?
It's always helpful when you get someone else's perspective, and I think the biggest thing that came out of this is understanding the profitability of this account to myself as well as the territory. I think a lot of times we just look at numbers and we say, "Oh, a $25,000 a year account's $25,000 a year accounts, and it's good. That's good money." But if you end up spending, the equivalent of a $40,000 a year account in time and products on this $25,000 account, just because it looks good on paper, maybe you're not filling in all the blanks and it doesn't look good. So with that being said, I think the best thing to do is to sit down and properly evaluate this account as far as its dollar wise, its worth, and then its cost. And Tom, if I can call on you to help me do that, I'd love to do that, because I'd love to get someone else's perspective on how to properly go through and do that. And then I think the next thing to do is to do some of these ballpark savings that we've shown, and put dollars to it. Because if I'm $25,000 a year, but I've saved them, another 15, if the previous vendor comes in $10,000 a year cheaper, they're still spending $5,000 a year less with me because of some of the savings and the issues I've had prior. And so I think what we'll do is we'll take that and maybe even share that with the supervisor. And if nothing else, if I can't get a meeting with upper management, maybe put it all together in a nice package and send it as an email, just to kind of go back and say, this is where you were. This is how we got here. These are some of the problems. These were some of the costs you had. We were able to solve problems X, Y, and Z, which resulted in where we are now. And I'd really like some help understanding why we are continuing to look outside at this point. So this is not going to be something that's done this week. So I'm probably going to need about 3 weeks to put all this stuff together and get it rolling. So Chris, put me down for 3 weeks from today, reporting back where we are.
All right.
Can you give me on there as well, just to call Mark to follow up with him in case he gets busy? I just want to make sure I reach out to him and help with that.
Thanks, Tom.
No problem.
Awesome. Well, great conversation today. Just some recaps on some things that I mentioned earlier. Remember, if you have not set up your new time for your accountability groups, please do that. I'm going to say today. Go ahead and make that today. We should have read all the way up by chapter 20 in our book next week that we're going to discuss. The convention's coming up for AWT. So if you have not registered for that, go ahead and reach out. And I think it's just awt.org, and you can register for the convention. And then Lauren is sending out the preference sheet for the live event. Please get that back to her so she doesn't ask me to keep asking you to get that back to me. And then we will make sure that everything you want is just the way you like it. So we're going to go around the room real quick and do ratings. Remember, number 1 is the worst meeting you've ever attended. Number 10 is the best meeting. So Chris, what do you got?
I'm going to say number 9.
All right. Tom, what about you?
I'd say 9 as well.
All right. Mark?
I'm going to shoot for a 9.
Okay. Connor?
I was going to say 9, so I'll stick with that, but I kind of thought about being contrarian and saying
Peer pressure. All right. How about you, Brian?
Well, it seems like the consensus is 9, so I'm going to balance it out and say 8.
All right. Fair enough. So I will see you guys next Tuesday at noon. And until the next time, you guys stay safe out there.
See you later.
Take care.
hey, guys.